Yes, yes. Well, you came here. Yes. Oh, starts with I tell everybody I started the program with this girl. Good morning and welcome to all our guests. We are very delighted that you are here to witness the unveiling ceremony of our book. What I meant to say was, I'm happy that you are here braving the cold weather too. And before we start the program, I would like you to view our PowerPoint and see our journey from practice and learning to perfection. It is my hope that you will celebrate cultural awareness when you read this book, and it will be a pleasure to read. At this moment, I would request Mrs. Jessie McCormick, teacher of the Tier 2 program, to read a story moisturizing cream or dark tail. Please welcome Mrs. Jessie McCormick.
All right, so this one is a delicious dilemma. Ordering food in restaurants in America appears to be strikingly different to me. It was my first weekend in the United States after moving from India. I was excited to explore the places and try the local cuisine. My husband, who had been in this country a few months longer than I, wanted to take me out to breakfast in one of the restaurants he liked the most. I also instantly liked the place, noting the cordial gestures of the hostess. After looking over the menu a couple of times, I decided to order the America's Special Breakfast. It consisted of 2 eggs, a choice of bacon, chicken strips, or 3 grilled bling sausages. All of this was also served with a choice of toast, milk, or hotcakes. Pleased with this option, I felt that nothing could be more suitable for me that day. Having decided on what I wanted to eat, I was soon to find out that the trickier part would be placing the order with our server. She started to shoot questions one after another to understand my choice of eggs, sausages, sides, and so on. The first question was, "How do you want your eggs?" I literally had no clue what to say, and smartly inquired, "What are my options?" The young lady smiled and said, "Hard-boiled, soft-boiled, scrambled, sunny side up, over easy, over medium, over hard, poached, whichever you like." Among these options, sunny side up was something I had heard before, so I chose that. But the questioning was not yet over. She continued, "Would you like bacon?" I have never in my life heard the word bacon, and naturally, I understood it as bake on. I was confused and replied, "Yes, please bake or heat up the dish. We would like to eat it here." I was relieved when my husband came to my rescue from the confusion with the server. However, it was not over yet. She gave me more options to choose from, toast, muffins, or hotcakes. I decided to keep it simple and said, "I'll have toast, please." But then she asked, "What kind of bread would you like?" Again, clueless, speechless, and overwhelmed, I replied with, "What are the options?" I think this must be the most common question when anyone is having trouble placing their order in a restaurant. The hostess gave me several bread options: white bread, cornbread, brown bread, multigrain, Italian, French bread, and so on. I just chose the very first option and finally completed placing the order. Amused, I felt as if I had never had to answer so many questions in my entire life while having a very simple meal. When I stepped out of the restaurant that day, both my stomach and mind was satisfied completely by the taste, quality, quantity, ambiance, and learned new terminology, not commonly used in India, such as bacon, pork strips, over easy, when an egg is flipped in the pan while cooking and the yolk should still be runny, over medium, the egg is flipped and the yolk should only be slightly runny, over hard, the egg is flipped and the yolk is firm. I believe every day is a learning experience. On that particular day, my learning experience was the introduction to the great America's Special Breakfast.
Thank you, for writing the story. Now I would request Mr. Matt Semlor, Administrative Intern at Hawthorne Elementary, please read the story, The Pastor's Fault.
It's the pastor's fault. When I lived in Mexico as an exchange student many years ago, I stayed with the family of one of the teachers in my immersion language school. The father in this family was not only a Spanish language teacher at my school, but he was also the pastor of 2 different church congregations. It was incredibly beneficial to me to be able to immerse myself in Mexican culture, not only with daily interaction with this family, but also with members of his 2 congregations during the 4 separate services we attended weekly. One evening, while gathering around the kitchen counter, seated on our stools for our customary evening meal, the family recounted a story to me about an experience they had had with a previous exchange student during one of their church services. Realizing the importance of learning by being immersed in a language, this family frequently hosted exchange students and encouraged their language learning guests to brave the cultural and communication challenges. One Sunday morning, the pastor was introducing to the congregation the new exchange student they were hosting. With the well-meaning intention of inviting this young lady to face her fears, he asked her to come to the stage and introduce herself to the congregation. Now realize that some people are uncomfortable to speak in front of crowds in their own language. You can probably imagine how terrified this girl was to stand up and address an unfamiliar group of people in Spanish nonetheless. She had only been attending the immersion language school for a few weeks and knew very little Spanish. Nervously, she approached the stage. Everyone was hushed in expectation of her greeting. Heart racing and palms sweating, she held the microphone near her mouth and said in her struggling vocabulary, "I am very embarrassed and it's your pastor's fault." The pastor's face immediately changed to various shades of red. He quickly jumped to his feet and took the microphone from his bewildered student. He frantically began to explain the verbal blunder. No, that's not what she meant to say. This young girl apparently couldn't recall the correct Spanish word for embarrassed. Feeling the pressure, she opted to guess by using the Spanish word embarazada. It sounds relatively close to embarrassed, right? However, the word embarazada that caused such a commotion literally translates as pregnant. I am very pregnant and it's your pastor's fault. You can now see why the pastor jumped to his feet and felt the urgency to correct the language blunder. We roared with laughter as the story was retold over our evening meal. I'm fairly certain that he never put a nervous student on the spot in front of such a large crowd of people ever again.
Now for the final story by Ann Smith, the Director of Federal Programs, Moisturizing Cream, a Dark Trail. Thank you, Ann.
One day, my husband and I went to Walmart to buy groceries. Normally, I love to roam around Walmart and look at the different items. But on that particular visit, we had taken more than an hour to pick up the groceries, and my husband was getting tired. He pleaded and asked if we could go home. But I was excited with my shopping excursion, and I didn't want to leave. I tried to remember my list of items we needed to pick up, and I remembered that with the winter weather soon to start, it was important not to forget my face moisturizer. As I mentioned that to my husband, he grew concerned about the many options and thought it would take another 15 or 20 minutes for me to decide which one I needed. Desperate to end our shopping trip, he randomly picked the first moisturizer in front of him and tried to convince me that it was the best one. After all, the label boasted of a natural glow, fair to medium skin tones. He said, "Since your skin tone is in that range, this is the best one." In the cart it went, and off we went to the checkout. After a regular use of the moisturizing product, I suddenly noticed that what the label said was fair to medium, meaning that the color went from fair to medium, to a medium darker tone. In India, fair skin is desirable, and everyone uses fairness creams to achieve a lighter complexion. Naturally, I have a fairer skin tone in comparison to the average Indian person, but even so, I would love to look even fairer than I already am. To my surprise and shock, I noticed after this week that my skin was increasingly starting to look more on the brownish side. Horrified, I realized I was unknowingly and unintentionally using a tanning cream and becoming a darker complexion. No thanks to my husband. I had used it for a whole week. No matter how bored or impatient my husband has become with shopping, that is the last time I will ever ask him to aid in selecting cosmetic products for me.
Thank you, Anne, and thank you, Tapasya, for writing the story. Now it's the exciting part of unveiling the book. I would request Ann Smith, Federal Programs Director, to unveil the book.
First, I have to tell you, I wore my special clothes just for this book unveiling. I have my book shirt and my book socks. And it's National Library Week. What could be better?
Yes.
Okay, so do I get to open it? that this wrapping is pretty cool, which would just be like this. What I meant to say was, you should see Christmas at my house.
Date from the side.
I just don't want to hurt the book.
Jesse has given me a good one.
Okay. Oh, I thought I was gonna be able to do it. I could go wherever I want. What I meant to say. In two convenient bindings, a spiral bound and a regular paperback. Very cool.
Thank you, Anna.
And thank you to all of the authors and everyone who worked so hard on this book. What a wonderful project. Thank you, Cornina.
You're welcome. I now request Mrs. Stephanie Jones, principal of Hawthorne Elementary School, to give away the certificates. A couple of them are not here because of the weather, and some had to travel, so they also could not because all the interstates are closed. So we will start with Lisa Hunstead, my friend and my collaborator. Countless hours she spent. You stand there and take picture.
Oh,
With Stephanie. Show the certificate.
okay.
Mr. James Maroda.
Oh, I don't
Um,
take pictures.
Proud of the year, and so I owe a debt of gratitude.
Do we have to
Mrs.
stand?
Deepthi Pavaria. She does countless artwork. All the artwork for the stories were by Deepthi, and I met Deepthi in January, and she was very gracious enough to do the artwork. Stacy is not here as yet. Mr. Harka Rai, who did the artwork for the book. The rest of them are not here. So a small gift to Lisa.
Thank you.
Jim.
Thank you.
Harka I'm going to give it for the Mastery Assembly.
Thank you.
So,
Do you mind, photo again, just standing? Thank you. Nice.
we'll have Anne also and Matt and Jesse one picture.
Come on.
Yeah, come.
Take another one, honey, later. We got it, maybe we should pull it.
Okay,
Here we
you
go.
want me to stand in the back?
Yeah, Matt can stand in the back. He's
All right.
big.
You can stand behind her.
You stand.
There you go.
There we go.
There we go.
There we
go.
You can stand straight up.
Oh,
He's still up there.
We good?
Thank you. Thank you to all who have come here today, braving the cold weather. I'm so grateful to all of you. First of all, I would like to thank Mrs. Stephanie Jones, principal of Hawthorne Elementary School, for this space for Parent University. I think all our students really love Parent University. And we have an old student who came all the way from Georgia for this celebration. So she and her husband. And then I would like to thank Mr. Matt Sembler, Ms. Jessie, and Ann Smith for taking the time to rehearse those stories and come and present it to us. And this made the story more in demand. The book, everybody now I think likes the book. So thank you so much. I owe a debt of gratitude to Mr. James Maroda and to Stacy Walters, Lisa Hunstead, Rachel Lean, who have put in countless hours to make this book a success. And then I thank all the editors and contributors who made sense of the stories. And I also want to thank my daughter. She's not here today, but she perfected many stories and wrote the foreword for our book. So once again, thanks to all who have come here. I hope that you can stay for some time, visit with everyone, have some treats, and then go back. Thank you so much. Thanks again.
We can't go though without recognizing Purnima. Hours and hours in time, and her heart is just all of who you are. I'm so blessed to have you as such a dear friend, but we need to pray.
So all of you who are here will get a complimentary copy of the book. And thank you so much for coming here. And please have some treats and then leave. Here I have the books for each one of you.
You're welcome.
Well, you know, from my perspective, I've seen all parts.
Yes, we're quite familiar.
And to see it all put together, it's just amazing.
So when did you start working with this ministry?
2 years ago.
Really?
Yeah. But this book, probably as early as October. And, you know, it's just, it's such a great collaboration. But also to tease out a story and, you know, make it work.
Stacy Walters, our literacy teacher, who helped us with all our writing.
I'm good, thank you. Man, and you have a golfer for your assistant, so you gotta have one. You don't like to go out there. That's like leaving your putter behind if you don't have one for them.
So how did you get connected with Stacy and Jim? Actually, Paige was coming to my programs, and I thought my campus and in fact, we started this